Welcome back to the Muscle Intelligence Podcast. I'm your host, Ben Pakulski. Today, we're going to talk about fat loss and why there absolutely are genetic differences that you must know about if you want to maximize your ability to lose fat. First, I want you to know something important. We are not all created equal. It's really unfortunate to watch people on social media shaming people who are overweight, who have a hard time losing fat, because you really don't understand. Even people who are quote unquote experts in fat loss aren't looking at some of the most important variables when it comes to understanding how people's unique physiology influences their outcomes. So after spending the last 18 months diving deeply into genetics, I have a different level of understanding and, to be honest, a different level of compassion for people who are over fat, overweight, and really have a hard time controlling what goes into their mouth. And now, you'll have a lot of people shaming people online saying, well, you just got to control what goes into your mouth and you got to control what you eat. And here's the thing that you should know as a fitness influencer, an expert, or even someone looking to lose fat. It's not a level playing field. Someone's ability to control their impulses, someone's ability to, or predisposition, propensity to be anxious, overwhelmed, live in a constant state of adrenaline, and then self-medicate with things like alcohol and food is absolutely genetically influenced. I'm going to get into that today on this podcast and so much more. When you and I experience stress, let's say that we walk into an incredibly stressful situation. Not all stress is created equal on the inside. We're all perceiving this differently. So let's say we walk into a situation and someone is threatening us, and we're different people. There's a 3-phase response to stress that's super important to understand. Now, there's absolutely a significant genetic influence in this that I've seen looking at hundreds of different genetic profiles. There's a different response. It's a 3-phase response, and everyone responds differently. So there's an acute response. So like, does it go up a lot and quickly, or does it go up a little bit? And this response alone is absolutely something you can see in somebody's mannerisms. If someone tends to be pretty chilled, pretty relaxed, chances are they're not getting this massive baseline adrenaline response. So as an example, this person might be someone who tends to be a little avoidant, tends to want to avoid things that are stressful. Why? Because if you have a massive surge of adrenaline, it doesn't feel really good. It feels overwhelming. It's like, I don't want to deal with this. So let me just go around. This person may become introverted. This person may be avoidant. This person may not want to be in social settings. Myself and both of my children have these genes. So this person may end up developing a personality that is like, I don't really like social events. I don't really like big gatherings. I don't really like being in loud environments. Not because they're introverted, but because their adrenaline response, their so-called catecholamine response is much greater. Well, why does this matter? Well, this person, if they're shoved into stressful experiences, is generally going to be someone who gets anxious, overwhelmed relatively easily, and may, if they don't have a better coping strategy, reach for something outside of themselves to bring down the stress. Now, if someone is raised in a really stressful, traumatic, potentially environment, how do you think that's going to shape their personality over time versus someone who's relatively safe, seen, and soothed as a child? So let's put person A and person B into this possible scenario. Both the same genetics, both of my children, and let's say me. So both of my children, I would say, have a relatively safe house, relatively calm, relatively chilled out. Generally, most of the time, both of them have a relatively chilled out personality, really easy to get along with, not super anxious, not super avoidant. Me, on the other hand, my house was chaos when I was a kid. It was alcoholism. It was terrible food, terrible light, lots of anger, lots of frustration. So I grew up being a relatively anxious kid who generally wanted to be by myself most of the time because everything around me and everyone around me created stress, anxiety, an internal feeling that I didn't know what it was. All I knew was I didn't like it. And yet over time, people eventually started to tell me, well, that's anxiety or that's overwhelm. And the feeling that I had inside, and all I knew was I didn't like it, eventually became this personality trait that I was like, generally, I want to be by myself. It also so happens to be what drove me into exercise and athletics, because that was the thing that got me out of it. But it also allowed me to learn as a child that if I ate crappy foods like sugar and highly palatable foods, I could feel better. Oh, interesting. So I learned this coping strategy from a young age that if I feel anxious, if I feel overwhelmed, or what I now term as anxious and overwhelmed, as a kid, I just knew I didn't feel good. I sort of felt like paralyzed. that if I just ate some cookies, I felt better. Like, oh, okay. Now, as a young man, I learned this coping strategy of cookies and candy and whatever makes me feel really good. I feel calm. So now coping with cookies and candy isn't a problem for me. It's my best friend. Instead of living in this constant state of anxiety and overwhelm, my heart rate is racing, my brain is racing, and I can't sleep, and I can't focus at school, candy and cookies become my best friend. Oh, isn't that interesting? Now, if we look back on somebody's history and somebody's genetics, we can start to see these predispositions. It's just a coping strategy. Now, if you grew up in a safe household, if you grew up without these genetics, you may not understand that. But for someone who currently lives in a state of high amounts of arousal, high states of stress, anxiety, and overwhelm, well, if their only known coping strategy is food, they're going to be overweight. And that's not a bad thing. They've just become comfortable with their best friend being cookies and candy, which was literally me until I was 17 years old. And so I have a huge level of understanding and compassion for these people. Now, an average person who may be a fitness influencer with an awesome genetic profile, an awesome lifestyle, can't empathize with these people. But they should. If they start looking at genetics, you can start going, oh, well, this person needs a different approach than someone who's got different genetics. So let's look at two genetic profiles. We've got person A, which is me, which is high amounts of adrenaline, both acutely, high baseline, and a slow metabolism. So I've got sort of three strikes against me for having high level of adrenaline baseline, high spikes to stressful environments. And gosh, it doesn't get out fast. It sticks around long. Whereas person B is over here and they've got they've got a relatively low baseline adrenaline, relatively low peak or spike, and a relatively fast metabolism. That person's going to be someone who does really well in stressful situations. Maybe they move toward it. Maybe they don't ever feel anxious, overwhelmed, or like they need something to cope with life. Well, does that make me genetically worse? No, because I'm actually going to be probably better at learning, probably better in high stress situations as far as being super aware and vigilant. I may even have a higher level of awareness in, potentially all situations, because adrenaline also brings your brain online from being hyper vigilant. So where does that make me more useful? Well, I always use the example, I'm standing at the top of a double black diamond. I'm going to see every detail, right? I'm going to see the ridges in the snow. I'm going to see the trees. I'm going to see everyone around me. That level of vigilance is great, which is also the cause of adrenaline. But the problem then is, well, if I stay in that state when I'm trying to go to bed or trying to be calm, that becomes a problem. This other person may not ever experience that level of vigilance, and they may actually crave things that are going to bring them more adrenaline. Well, how does this affect fat loss? So for me, taking on a client now who's maybe fat loss resistant or had a hard time adhering to their diet, I don't shame them and go, hey, it's your fault. I say, hold on a minute. Tell me about that. Let's run your genetics so I can see this. Second, tell me about what's happening when you're anxious, overwhelmed, and afraid, even in your day-to-day life. Let's say your wife is confronting you, your husband's confronting you with something that's difficult. You're like, oh, geez, I don't want to have this hard conversation. So while you think it's a personality trait, looking beneath the hood, we see it's a genetic phenotype. It's a trait that we can ultimately learn how to manage. So what's happening at the level of the neck down, even neck up, physiological state when someone is having these three, call it strikes, against them when it comes to adrenaline. So I get a big spike, I have a high baseline, and I have a slow metabolism. So I've got this huge amount of area under the curve. Well, I'm getting this big response to even small stimuli. So I feel anxious and overwhelmed. So what's happening? Adrenaline goes up, catecholamines go up. So I need something to bring it down. Well, what can I use in that case if I'm someone who's anxious or overwhelmed? I can immediately use drugs and alcohol. I can immediately use food. I can use medicines. Well, no, let's not use those. Let's teach you a new coping strategy. And I know here's the challenge. We have immediate relief when it comes to drugs, alcohol, and food. It's instant. And that is a problem, right? Because that's really hard to overcome. If I'm going to say, hey, we don't want to use those things. We want to use some positive coping strategies, some useful coping strategies. Well, those look like movement, breath work, meditation. Fortunately, sometimes those take a little bit longer. They take work. Now you see why it's so difficult to change a behavior, because the time to the delayed gratification with alcohol, drugs, and food is zero. I get it now. When it comes to getting the positive or using a positive coping strategy, it takes time. Therefore, it takes effort. And if I'm in a massive state of anxiety and overwhelm, I don't want it to take 45 minutes for me to go on a walk, or I don't want it to take months of potential learning how to meditate. That's pain for me. Oh, so now I'm just going to reach for something outside of myself. So how does this relate to fat loss? If your only way out of stress, anxiety, and overwhelm is to medicate yourself with food, then you don't stand a chance at losing fat. And therefore, you're not going to be the person on the cover of a magazine. You're going to be the person struggling year in, year out, looking for a new strategy. It's like build the strategy before you need it. And unfortunately, we can't change your childhood. If you grew up in a chaotic, stressful environment, an obese kid like I was, like, hey, I don't fault that little kid. He did the damn best he could. But now he knows better. And now he knows, like, hey, when I'm stressed, anxious, and overwhelmed, I can breathe. I can meditate. I can walk. I can maybe connect with somebody that makes me feel great. Maybe I can remove myself from a stressful situation and feel better in that moment, faster. It becomes a skill to get myself out of anxious, overwhelmed, and afraid. It's a skill that the more often I do it, the better I get at it, the faster it is to get out. So why is this useful to know? And maybe one of the most important things I've learned when it comes to helping people be more successful in fat loss. Here's the statement of the day. We're all just compensating. We're all just coping with life in varying degrees based on genetics and history and obviously lifestyle. So if you're someone who has lived for the last 30, 40 years in this constant sympathetic, stressed state, it's going to become part of your personality. It doesn't mean it's who you are. It's become part of who you are, but you can change it if you commit to it. So one of the most important things I do in my coaching is we commit to some specific outcomes, short-term and long-term. And if the commitment is just getting yourself 7 days without using this coping strategy, for some people it's alcohol. For my mom, rest her soul, it was alcohol. And looking back on her life, looking at her genetics, and she was 12 years old, she didn't know how to deal with these overwhelming emotions. So she started to drink. And that's all she knew. And so for me, as previously an ignorant person, you blame, right? You're like, oh, she just drinks. But then someone who educates himself, you go, oh, that little girl, that little angel, that's all she knew. It's all she learned. She learned, like, I don't want to be fat, so I'm not going to eat candy. But if I drink whiskey or vodka, that numbs all those painful emotions that I don't know how to deal with. So it doesn't make her wrong or right. She was doing the best she could with the information she got. This level of sympathy and compassion that I can have for anyone standing in front of me shifts when you simply look at the lens of genetics and history influencing your current reality. So if you're someone who wants to change your future reality, well, we have to look at your genetics. We don't have to. I can actually make very strong assumptions by just looking at your predispositions. I'm like, okay, I can probably assume you've got some version of this trilogy. Some people got a great spike. Some people have a high baseline. Some people have a low baseline. And you can generally see it. Are you someone who tends to ruminate? Well, maybe that is because you have a slow recycling of catecholamines. We look at these things and we start to look at what are you willing and able to do when it comes to overcoming these challenges. Now, it's not always possible to stop the medication. It's not always possible to stop the alcohol cold turkey. But if we give you a more useful, more positive, more constructive coping strategy that you can start implementing over time, you're like, oh, I don't need this. So here's a situation that's happening right now in my life. My dad is getting over some health challenges. And my dad also, ironically, maybe not ironically, has this same trilogy of stress hormones. So my dad's coping strategy through his life was food. So my dad learned that candy bars are really good friends when you're in a really stressed, angry mood. My dad's emotion of choice was not to become an introverted and recluse. It was to become angry and lash out. So when he would become overwhelmed with these stress emotions, he would become very aggressive and very angry. And so he didn't choose alcohol like my mom did. He chose food. So my dad is very overweight. He's learning every day that if he just wakes up in the morning and goes for a walk, instead of eating, If he just gets up in the morning and goes to the gym, his emotional regulation through the whole day is completely different. So my dad has lost probably 25 pounds in the last 6 to 8 weeks, not doing anything differently other than controlling the first 60 minutes of his day. Like, hey, Dad, instead of eating for breakfast, why don't we go for a walk? We're going to have these little punctuated moments throughout the day of movement. And it was really hard for him to do that in the beginning, really hard. So what did I do? I'm like, well, I'm going to make it easy for him. I'm going to hire a trainer who he's accountable to, who he really likes, to get him there for 60 minutes a day. And my ask to her was, hey, 5 days a week, 60 minutes. I don't care if you sit here and talk to him while he spins on the bike or he moves his biceps. I'm like, don't care. All I'm trying to do is get a little bit of emotional regulation, a little bit of this sort of adrenaline control, maybe a little bit better glucose movement through his body, so that he doesn't have these anxious, overwhelmed, angry outbursts throughout the day that have led him to self-medicate with candy and cookies and baked goods. And those things ultimately became part of his enjoyment. He enjoys those things now, but they're not part of what he needs. It's part of what he's learned to use as self-medication. So I've been blessed in this life to have a mother who is really high in emotions. My mom was wonderful. She was one of the most caring, amazing women I've ever met. She was hard, but probably because she learned that. And she drank every day. As a young man, even in my 30s, I didn't understand. I didn't understand how to help her. I didn't understand why she did it. Until one day we went to a carnival. My 2 children, my sister and my mom and myself, we got in a car and we went to a carnival. And my mom got there and she was about to walk in and she stopped and she says, I'm going home. And so in that moment, my sister blamed. My kids were like, why is grandma doing this? And I understood. I understood completely what she was going through. As she walked steps and step closer to this gate of this carnival, and she could see all the people and hear all the lights, or hear all the sounds and see all the lights, anxiety started to build. Overwhelm started to build. The amount of sensory input into her brain and nervous system was so much that she could feel it building. And she stopped. She goes, guys, I can't go in. I'm like, okay. So because I had some beginning understandings of what was happening inside her physiology, I understood. In that moment, the thing she wanted was to mute her feelings. It was so overwhelming for her inside. This level of anxiety and fear and overwhelm was so overwhelming that I couldn't even go in there, even to please my 2 children and my 2 grandchildren. She couldn't do it. So instead of getting angry or frustrated, I was like, no problem, Mom. We're going to take you home. We're going to take you home because we love you so much that we understand. I understood what you're going through. Whereas my sister was angry, if I'm honest. Not to fault her, she didn't understand. And my kids were confused. And I was understanding. Because I understood this person's genetics and what's happening, but sort of in the brain and in the body, it allowed me to understand. So when I look at someone who's drinking or eating or overweight, I don't look at their behavior patterns. I look under the surface and I go, why is this person doing this? What's driving this behavior? Some learned behavior in the past has said, hey, this is a good idea. This is my best friend. This is all I've got right now. This is the best tool I have to get me through this day. And so if I'm a coach or if I'm a fitness influencer and I'm shaming people or not showing them the path to like understanding what the hell is happening in their brain and their body and giving them the tools they need to be successful, I'm a failure. It's not your job as a coach to give them a diet plan and a workout. The word coach, the term, means to coach people through things when shit hits the fan. If I'm a trainer or whatever, how you guys want to label it, I can write a workout, I can write a diet plan. Good, go on your own. If I can't get you through it, sorry, it's your fault. That's not a coach. The whole definition of a coach is to help somebody through when things are outside of their realm of possibility for them. Like, I'm not sure what to do now, coach, help. Well, suck it up, man. Have some fucking discipline. Bullshit. Help the person. Learn your craft more effectively than everyone else says is possible, because everyone has the ability to change if they want to. I put out a comment recently that I believe obesity is going to be gone in the next 10 years. And I let a lot of people shitting on me because they said, hey, you know what? No, a lot of people don't want to change. And you know what? You're right. If they don't want to change, they never will. But here's the thing. Why don't they want to? Because they don't value it. Why don't they value it? Maybe they stop believing in themselves really early on in their life. Maybe they just never saw the value in it, period. Maybe they don't recognize that, hey, by being leaner, my brain works better. My body works better. I can do more things more effectively. Maybe they don't care. Maybe the way they connect with people is through being obese, and that allows them to connect. Great. But maybe they don't recognize that there's a light at the end of the tunnel where like, hey, this is going to shorten your life. Maybe we should try to extend the quality and the quantity of your life by giving you this path to being lean, healthy, and muscular. As I walked around literally yesterday in the airport, I was like, when did soft, sad, and isolated become the norm in this society? Soft, sad, and isolated is the norm. It shouldn't be the norm, right? Why did angry and like lashing out at our neighbors become the norm? Well, the reality is because people aren't prioritizing their health. Their brains are infected with inflammation, anxiety, overwhelm constantly, and they don't have the ability to deal with it. And it's not their fault. This is their learned reality because they spend most of their life on media. If you spend most of your life on television or the radio or even now swiping through Instagram, you're seeing an intentionally curated stream and feed of things that are taking you on an emotional roller coaster into fear, into belief, into painting the false picture of what you could and should and feel like and look like. And it's taking you on this roller coaster of confusion and dopamine roller coaster of feeling really good and feeling really bad and wanting to chase something new and wanting to feel sorry about yourself. And you're on this roller coaster. And if that's your reality, you don't stand a chance of changing your brain or your body. And eventually, what do? You stop wanting to. You stop thinking it's possible. So you just want to mute your feelings. I'm just gonna take this food or this alcohol or this pill to make me feel better now. And so get off the hedonic treadmill first by owning the first 60 minutes of your day. So if you're someone who's on a fat loss journey, I'm going to bring this full circle. You heard me tell about my strategy with getting my 50 pounds off my dad. He's halfway there. We got about 7 weeks left to go by Christmas. We said 50 pounds by Christmas. And he's 25 pounds down and has been doing it for maybe 6 or 8 weeks. And I'll be honest with you. I've got him on retatrutide, which is a GLP-1 agonist. I've got him on SS31, which is a mitochondrial peptide to remove some of the mitochondrial challenges. I'm going to put him on, I've got him on TB500, which is not for his fat loss, but more for his heart because he's had a heart attack. I will put him on, I've got him on epitalin as well, which is a sleep aid, also longevity aid. So I've got him on 4 different peptides. I mix them all in the same storage. I jack it in his body once a day, and he does it. But he puts it under his skin, super easy. And like, this is not me recommending anything to anyone, but this is telling what I'm doing with my dad. And he feels great. He's like, Ben, I used to go to the bathroom, standing to go to the bathroom, and I'd feel dizzy. It's like I used to get in the shower and worry I was going to fall. He's 68 years old. He's not an old man because he just had no idea how to regulate his nervous system. So when he would feel anxious and overwhelmed, the only way he'd regulate is food and television. He would mute his mind with television and he'd mute his body with food. And so instead of doing that, I'm allowing him to control his physiology through exercise every morning for 60 minutes and some peptides to help him with the impulse control and getting rid of the damage that his body's accumulated over 68 years of ultimately sort of neglect. And so my call to you, my call to action to you is start to own your morning. I know it's difficult. There's kids and there's business and I got to make money. And gosh, the world is so expensive and it's so hard to pay for even groceries. I don't know how most people are getting by, if I'm honest. This world is in an interesting way. But here's what I'll tell you. By owning your morning, your ability to control your mind is improved. Your ability to control your emotions is improved. Your ability to be focused is improved. Your ability to therefore, this is a big leap for some people, your ability to therefore be more effective and more productive in the day is increased. And so if your desire is to be the most effective, most efficient version of yourself, knowing the uncertainty of the future is absolutely rampant. We have no idea what's coming. So here's my call to you. Be ready. Future ready, right? Be ready for whatever the future holds. How do we do that? Be fit. Be strong, be healthy, be mentally nimble and capable of going in every different direction, right? Be the ultimate modern man. Be the ultimate modern man. What does that mean? Man, I want to be ready when someone's like, let's go, we got to run. Got it. We got to lift. Got it. We got to fight. Got it. Right? We got to provide for our family by staying up all night. Got it. That's the goal, is to be capable in every different scenario, man and woman. Now, guys, this podcast is generally guided at men. Now, I'm sure there's women listening because this podcast is this specific episode is different. But from a man's perspective, your job is to never complain. Your job is to always be capable, always. And if you're someone who complains about anything, this is where like my energy and passion generally comes through. I was going to yell profanities at you, but I won't. But get off your ass, stop complaining, take full responsibility for your life, and fucking own it. Own the morning. Stop making excuses. If you got to lose 45 minutes of sleep, I don't care. If you got to get to bed early, good. If you have to start cutting away some things that you really like to do, like hanging with the buddies and drinking brewskis with the boys on the weekends and stop eating Netflix, stop consuming Netflix, fucking do it, because the future is uncertain and you must be more prepared than you ever have imagined before. Do you know what the world is going to look like in 18 months from now with artificial intelligence? I don't. All I know is no matter what happens, I'm ready. I'm physically ready. I'm mentally ready. I'm learning like a voracious animal every single day about artificial intelligence. I'm learning like a voracious animal every day so I can help you be more successful. Why? Because I work with men over 40 every day who just want to be the best version of themselves. People come to me to build muscle, but here's the true reality. I don't give a fuck if you build muscle. I couldn't care less. What do I care about? The man you're becoming in the process. Are you ready to support your family? Are you ready to support yourself first? Which the answer is most people can't. Are you then, once you've built enough resilience and capability to support yourself physically, do you have enough energy, abundance, and strength for more than just yourself? Your neighbor, your wife, your kids, your family. Do you have enough abundance of energy, of wealth, of strength to carry somebody on your back, literally and figuratively? And then once you've got enough for yourself, you've got enough for your community and your family, do you then have enough for more than just that? Maybe the world, right? There's people out there who have high amounts of capability. Not everyone's capable in all areas, for sure. Some people are very mentally capable. Some people are very financially capable. Some people are very energetically capable or physically capable. Great. Build margin into your life. Build a margin into your life that allows you to give. Don't just take, right? When you're in a mindset of scarcity, you just want to take. I want to consume. I want to build comfort around myself. Stop. Build capability into your life. So own your morning. What do we do? Train, move, make it hard. Do as much as you possibly can. Bet I'm going to be tired later. Good. Find a way to get through it. The more you do it, the more consistently you do it, the more effective you're going to be. On the end of your day, own the end of your day. What does that mean? Learn to control your nervous system. Controlling your mind and your nervous system is a skill. What do we got to do? Well, we got to learn to. A big narrative in my business that I'm going to drive home is the warrior and the monk. Gentlemen, your responsibility in 2025 and 2026 is to become both the warrior and the monk. What does that mean? The warrior is highly capable. He can do everything. He can do all things when called on. The monk, the lighthouse in the storm. When everyone else around him is in chaos, he's completely at ease. He's completely calm. He can be both centered and focused, but he can also learn when to calm himself down and take disciplined action, directed action. So gentlemen, my call to action for you is learn to be more compassionate for those people around you, whether you're a coach listening to this or you're a man who wants to be the best version of himself. Learning that your head and from what you are from the neck down is not your personality. It's what you've learned to become as a result of your genetics and your environment, whatever that looked like up to this point, and you absolutely have the ability to change it. If you're committed to going all in 2026, there's 3 things I want you to remember: the mission, the map, and the mentor. The mission, what's the goal? What's the mission? Why is it important to you? Sit down and write it. If you don't know how to do it, work with my team and I to create we do go through what we call an MVP process. So we're going to create the mission, the values, and the process for you. So the mission, the map, create a map. Know where I'm going to be in 12 months. What's the steps to get there? Break it down to quarterly, monthly, and weekly targets. And the mentor is, who's that person that ultimately is shining the light on the path in front of me? Maybe it's me in the community. Maybe it's not. I don't care. Whatever it is, my commitment to this world, or my mission in this world, is helping men show up more effectively for what matters most to them. And the body you have is not the goal. It's a result of the man you are every day. The way I look is not a goal. I no longer have the 21-year-old goal of having a six-pack and big biceps, bro. Like, yeah, I want to look fucking awesome, but not because I want to look awesome, because looking awesome to me is an expression of the work I put in every day in the gym, how disciplined I am in getting to the gym, how effective I can be in the gym. I'm playing a game of effectiveness now because I don't want to be in the gym for 2 hours a day. I don't want to be in the gym for 1 hour a day most days. I'm like, 45 minutes, man, let's go. Let's get it done. I need to be maximally effective. And that leads me into the conversation of the next podcast that's coming at you next week. I'm going to teach you how I approach going in the gym now as a man over 40 who, yeah, I want to have a six-pack and massive pecs when I take my shirt off so my partner can love the way I look and want to have consistent sex with me. Fuck yeah, I do. Is that my goal? No, it's a byproduct of me working my ass off every day and learning how to be maximally effective in the gym. That's it. I want to be strong. I want to be fit. I want to be capable. I want to have no injuries and no limitations. That's my target. Right? I want to be able to box. I want to be able to fight. I want to be able to run, all of it. I'll talk about that in the next episode coming up next week. But for now, we'll close with understanding your fat loss starts with your genetics, starting having some compassion around who you are, what you've done in the past, and then ultimately taking disciplined action to change. And that means, yes, you need to be in a caloric deficit, but not right away. If you're someone who uses food as your best friend, you use cookies and candies as my joke as your best friend, don't take it away without giving yourself a better coping strategy or a better strategy to overcome it. Once you've done that, I promise you, losing fat is unbelievably easy. It's a byproduct of learning to control your internal state, control your emotions, and taking disciplined action. It's so simple. So few people have a nutrition problem. Like almost none have a nutrition problem. We all have a behavior problem that we've turned into a nutrition problem. I know every nutritionist in the world is going to hate me for this, but it's true. I think nutrition is really important for performance. It's really important for performance, but most people aren't playing a performance game. Most people are playing an emotional control game, a behavior change game. So unless you're trying to be really highly capable, you probably don't have a nutrition problem. You probably have a behavior problem. So hopefully this helps. Hopefully it hits home for you. If you want to understand more about this, drop me some comments below, and I would love to hear your questions. I'd love to hear what more you want to understand about fat loss, what more you want to understand about genetics, and maybe how I can help you be successful this day and moving forward, and ultimately create the greatest operating system for you. So what we do at Muscle Intelligence is we help you create your lifestyle operating system. What does that mean? What do I do from the time I wake up to the time I go to bed? And ultimately, how does that help me be more effective in the things I'm trying to solve? Most of the guys I get to work with are already playing at 95 to 98% effectiveness. And they're looking for that 1% shift. Like, hey, how do I be a little bit more better physically? How do I be a little more better mentally? How do I be a little bit better when it comes to my stress resilience so I can take on more? Those are the guys I work with. But this is not normal, right? These guys are not common. The guys I work with are the most elite, more successful people in the world. My coaches work with average people who are ultimately trying to change behaviors. If you want to work with us directly, head over to muscleintelligence.com/apply, APPLY, and you can apply to work with us there. Now, we're only working with people who are 100% committed to working, to getting the result now. If it's in the future, wait. Like, now's not the time. If you're 100% committed to being like, man, now's the time for me to change, then we can give you the mission. Well, you provide the mission. We'll give you the map and the mentor. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for being here. That's a wrap for today. Hopefully this was helpful. If it was helpful, I would love it if you subscribe to the Muscle Intelligence Podcast as we are back on this mission to make men great again. Make men strong so you can show up for what's most important to you. If this podcast was helpful, I would appreciate it very much if you leave us up to a 5-star review and share this podcast with everyone you know who's on a mission to be the greatest version of themselves, to deal with the uncertainty of the world so you can ultimately be more effective moving forward. Have a great day. Live your greatest life in a body you love.